Welcome to JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the world. If it's your first time checking out a video, please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. We're watching a clip of First Things First, talking about the Jets and whether or not are they, a threat to win the division. And I am on the record repeatedly saying that I think that the Jets, especially with Aaron Rodgers last season, would have been obviously significantly better, that they could have legitimately made the playoffs and even won a playoff game, that they were almost beat the Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl winners, with Zach Wilson, that they would obviously have been head and shoulders better with Aaron Rodgers, and that it's unfair to say that the whole move to the Jets has been a disaster with Aaron because he got, injured. So there's been a lot of slander to that, and I've definitely defended Aaron, even though I'm not even a huge Aaron Rodgers fan necessarily, but I'm also not a hater of him either. Kind of indifferent at this point, to be quite honest. And I don't love a lot of those little quirks that he has. But I am curious to see what Nick has to say now, because he's been bad-mouthing, Aaron and the Jets and all of this. So I am curious to see if he now suddenly changes his tune. So let's take a listen, and we'll break it down from there.
And their family members, Jets got Aaron Rodgers another weapon, signing former Charger Mike Williams to a one-year deal. Here's Williams on his new team. Take a listen.
Aaron, I want to be able to, play with him, pick his brain, learn from him. Playing alongside Garrett kind of remind me of Keenan a little bit. Similar style play, great route runners, and I feel like we can complement each other in that area. The running game is pretty good. Defense is elite. So I just feel like we got a pretty good opportunity ahead of us. Just looking forward to it.
Okay. Mike's last 3 years, 2021 and 2022, very productive. And then, of course, last year cut short with a knee injury in week 3. Brew, is Rodgers poised for a huge season?
Well, I'm going to say this. I'm not predicting. We had at the start of the show, are they make a Super Bowl run? No. Rodgers in his prime after he won his first Super Bowl with great teams, great records in the regular season. He was awesome. He played at MVP level. Never got to another Super Bowl. And you guys know I talked about his performances in the conference championship games, which were bad a lot of times. So I don't think Super Bowl run. What I will say is this about the Jets. I like their offseason. This is like we're going for it this year. Our quarterback is 40, all right? We signed Tyron Smith, who we know is great when he plays, to a one-year deal. Mike Williams, to a one-year deal. Morgan Moses has 1 year left on his deal. They got John Simpson, who's the youngest offensive lineman they signed, for 2 years. So they're saying this is it. Yeah. We got 1 year maybe of Rodgers being great. Let's go for it. So I'm with that. You're the Jets, all right? What do you have to lose? So I'm fine with that. If they stay healthy, this is my statement.
Okay.
This is on Aaron Rodgers. If these guys are healthy, if your offensive line is solid, which it looks like on paper, you got Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, I don't want to say great. The dude is very, very, very good when healthy. Breece Hall, I like. The defense is very good. Like, if they're healthy, then this is on Aaron Rodgers. They should be able to get to the playoffs if Aaron Rodgers is still close. I'm not even asking for MVP for him. Close. And I don't think he will be. But I'm just saying, we'll point to him as, oh, man, you had a squad and you were washed.
So I don't know that they have a squad. They have a very old team in a league that does not ever work in. So their biggest offseason acquisitions, let's show them, because we both tackles and the wide receiver. They are 33. That is old, Brew. That is old in the NFL. Games missed the last 2 years.
So what happens when you're that old is that you're just more likely to get banged up and injured, and then you don't recover and heal as quickly. So these younger guys, and that's why kind of one of the newer philosophies is that you want to be, you get more injured on defense. And so you want younger defense because those guys get banged up and they can bounce back a lot quicker. And even if they do get injured or even need something like a surgery, unfortunately, they can come back a lot quicker. Whereas offense, you're maybe a little bit less prone to get injured, and so that you can get away with them being a little bit older. But of course, once you just get older in general, you do have just more of the risk of being injured, and and that's tricky.
Morgan Moses is the healthiest of them. The other, Tyron Smith and Mike Williams, has missed a season's worth of games in the last 2 seasons. They have been, by definition, halftime players. And they are...
There's no doubt the health is huge.
Right, but that is... If I were a Jets fan, I'd be livid.
Really?
Because let me tell you why.
Okay, go ahead.
They had a potentially historic 2022 draft. Now, they had the extra pick from trading, great trade. Maybe the best move Joe Douglas ever made was the Jamal Adams trade, getting 2 first-round picks for Jamal Adams. So you had an extra first-round pick. You then traded back into the first round. You had 4 picks in the top 36. You walked away with Sauce Gardner, the second-best corner in his class. Shout out Trent McDuffie. Garrett Wilson.
Great.
Very good.
Jermaine Johnson, who made a Pro Bowl, so maybe an underrated but really good player. And Breece Hall, who's a really good running back. He blew out his knee, but we'll see. You had an opportunity in that moment to say, we are taking, when you crush a draft like this, you take a long view. And we tried to build a juggernaut. Instead, they gave the reins to a literal and figurative madman and have just now operated as if the way teams operated, Brew, the way you described it, like prime LeBron in the last year of his contract.
That's right.
Oh, my God. We got to make sure we maximize now. We have the best player in the world, and he could leave. You have a 40-something-year-old coming off a torn Achilles, and you are at the expense of being able to take advantage of these guys' primes together. You are building a team that doesn't make sense. You are building an old, injured team.
It actually is a pretty decent point that he's making, and as you guys know, I don't love to agree with Nick Wright, but I do talk about this, matching primes and ages, and and that is the problem that I've said with other teams in the past, as well as in both football and basketball, for that matter. Some of the teams that are pretty competitive this year, have kind of this imbalance between youth and veterans, which can be tricky. And so I definitely understand what he's saying. And that's why getting Aaron, may have not been the best move for them. But it's hard, because if I was the Jets, I would have fired their head coach. I think maybe getting Aaron wouldn't have been the worst idea. Initially, I'm trying to think of it before I knew that he went and, tore his Achilles, of course. Because I just don't know what some of the better options out there were at the time and what you could expect, because it's like, as you guys all know, Kirk Cousins is one of my more favorite, more averagey type football players, right? Not the Mahomes and the Burrows of the world, but I think Kirk Cousins. So it's like, if you had the ability to get like a Kirk Cousins, I think that would have been a good idea. I think getting, say, I don't think Baker Mayfield would have thrived in New York. I don't think he could handle the media at all, so that would have been a mistake. So I just don't know what their options are, because I don't trust their coaches to be able to get the job done, especially on the offensive side of the ball, because they keep thinking that trotting out Zach Wilson is a good idea, and that alone makes me not trust anything you're doing on offense. So that to me is the biggest issue, more than anything. So again, and I've said this about the Cowboys, if I were the Jets, I would have done everything I could do to get Harbaugh. I would say, bro, New York City, let's go. You will be the god of New York City, one of the most powerful cities in the world, okay? Not just the country, in the world. Here are the keys to the kingdom. Let's go. And if you win a Super Bowl with the Jets in New York City, you will be a god forever. You win a Super Bowl in LA with the Chargers, yeah, that'll be exciting and they'll love it, but like, no one really cares. No one really talk about it. New York? We're talking about New York? It's New York. It's just different out there. people don't even think about what the heck happened when the LA Rams won the Super Bowl. That came and went in a second because it's just different. Sports are different in the East Coast versus the West Coast. I lived in both coasts, and it does. It just hits differently. People care so much more on the East Coast because there's less to do. And in the dead of winter, you don't got much to do except for to watch football. In the West Coast, you know, the LA Rams or the Chargers are not doing too well and they lose. Whatever. I'm just going to go to the beach and hang out or go for a walk, go to the zoo. I mean, you can just do anything you want. 365 out there. Again, I live there. I know from experience. So it's just different. And instead, they were just like, nah, we're not going to, you know, be aggressive. We're okay with this. So if you are a Jets fan, I would be upset with some of those moves, but I just wouldn't sell my stock on Aaron just yet necessarily.
Look, when Rodgers that summer, when Rodgers was available, remember, I was saying, go get Lamar.
Yes, of course.
Go get Lamar.
Yes.
So that would have fit
Lamar
more.
was never
better
available.
than Aaron Rodgers.
Right. But my point is, now that you have Rodgers, they made that mistake and they got Aaron Rodgers. The smart thing is to go for it. He's playing this year, so hopefully he doesn't get hurt. But right, like what are you supposed to do?
And I don't think it is. Even if you are going for it, I think that the Jets deciding to consistently press the button of high upside, old injury prone for all the moves. It's not
They're one-year deals.
Right.
They're one-year deals because no one's going to give them 2 years.
Right.
No, but also because if they get hurt or don't play well, you get rid of them.
No, of course. But then my point at that point,
And your quarterback might be gone too, so you're starting over anyway.
Right. The point that I am making is it is so much like the Jets offseason wilds to me, and this is the audience will relate to this more than that side of the table. I apologize. But it reminds me of how, as a younger, more impulsive man, I ran my Madden franchise. Oh, my God. That guy's an 86 overall. I know he's 35 years old, but I think, you know what? The upside's there. Wait, that guy's cheap, but he was retired for a year in real life. Let me add him. The Jets consistently pressing the same button this offseason instead of stability. You know what? We are not going to sign the future Hall of Famer left tackle who's only available because he's old and injured. Sure. Instead, we are going to take a C-plus player who's never missed a game due to injury. You don't think that would make sense, Brew?
I think you've got a 40-year-old quarterback who might only play one more year. Go for it.
But, Brew, doesn't going for it mean...
They didn't give Tyron Smith 4 years.
No, but you're misunderstanding me. Doesn't going for it, can't that also mean adding players that are least likely to be hurt this season? Isn't going for it making your offseason not about getting the receiver who was available because he has missed 17 games the last 2 years? That's why Mike Williams is available. And Tyron Smith, who's available because he's missed 18 games the last 2 years. That's why he's available.
I'm baffled by your take because, yes, they've been injured, but they signed one-year deals.
Okay, yeah. Brew's not understanding what Nick is saying. I understand both sides. Brew is not acknowledging that what Nick Wright is saying is that the chances of them getting injured this season is very high. And so Brew's trying to say, go for it this season. That's why they got those players. But if going for it this season, and it's pretty much all in on this one season, then why are you getting players that have a high potential risk of getting injured? And if they get injured, you can't go for it. You now can't go for it. That if you surrounded, say, Aaron Rodgers with maybe not as great as talent, but people that you know who are not going to miss games or have a likelihood of not missing games, then that gives you a better chance to quote unquote go for it. So I get it. I don't know if there is a good predictable way to evaluate whether or not the likelihood of someone getting injured again. I know we kind of throw out these words like injury prone or, hey, this guy was injured for the last 2 seasons. I don't know. I haven't looked at the data or really heard any discussions with regards to this. But if that necessarily means that, okay, hey, this guy was injured the last 2 seasons, that means his 3rd season, he has a great chance at getting injured again, right? I'm just not so sure about that. I'd also have to look closer at some of these guys' injuries. I don't remember them off the top of my head and see how they got actually injured. You know, were these freak accidents? Was this non-contact? Was this overuse? Like, you know, what actually happened and where was the injury? So I get both sides of the coin, and that is the tricky situation that you're in with, an older quarterback and saying, listen, we probably only really got one good year. What can we do to maximize that? And the reality is you probably just want to get the best players you can who are available and hope that they stay healthy. Like, I don't know if you're better off getting that C+ type player. I really don't. It kind of feels like damned if you do, damned if you don't. And the truth is that, that C+ player could also get injured. So you just don't know. You really, really don't. And that is what worked out with Tom Brady, because he still needed the old heads. He still needed Gronk, but at the same time, he also had other younger players who could fill in the gaps, who he knew were also most likely going to stay healthy or could bounce back from injury, outside of it being obviously a severe injury. So, I think you need a collection in that regard. You need to surround Aaron Rodgers with great talent, right? Young talent who you can depend on being healthy, but Aaron needs to be around vets. Tom Brady needs to be around vets. Stafford, when they brought him over with the Rams, he needed to be around vets. He needed that, and they needed those players. Von Miller was banged up, and the Rams went out and got him and said, hey, we want you. OBJ banged up. Hey, we want you. And so it worked out. The benefit was that they didn't have to they got them later in the season, so they didn't play with them the full season. But although Von Miller did play for the full season, it just wasn't with the Rams. But I'm pretty sure OBJ was OBJ sitting out for a little bit. I forget if he was coming back from an injury or what his story was. I honestly genuinely forget at this point. It already feels like it was a million years ago. But so I just think, the Jets, I don't think it was the worst idea to go out and get Aaron Rodgers, but I do think since getting Aaron, they haven't been making the best decisions. I don't think it's as terrible as people are highlighting it because of the year that they had and having Zach Wilson. But to me, that's almost kind of like the original sin, so to speak, of trotting Zach Wilson out there, because that defense was legit. That defense was elite and was getting the job done. And, they proved that they were formidable. And, they were somewhat hanging on by a thread with Zach Wilson. We obviously know Aaron Rodgers is going to be better. They talk about how a last place, like Nick Wright said this alone, that a bad team who has a number one pick, when they draft a rookie quarterback, if he's a good quarterback and obviously not like a complete bust, he's worth like 3 wins. Okay? Well, this is kind of like the Jets being like a last place team. They pretty much have a last place quarterback, right? And that's really the big reason why they're losing all those games. And yet they still were able to somewhat piece together some wins. And so therefore you can at the very least add 3 wins on what they had for the Jets. And if not more, because Aaron Rodgers is better than a rookie quarterback on a last place team. So you have to imagine that with Aaron Rodgers, the Jets could have won 10, 11 games, okay? Which is right on par with all the other great teams, right on par with the Chiefs and the, and the Cowboys and the 49ers. It's all within that range. So you have to imagine that they could have maybe made that work, Aaron Rodgers probably with the Jets would have been worth like 4 or 5 wins, who really knows at this point? So to me, it's just very easy to kind of, call out the Jets based off of Aaron getting injured and all of that. But I genuinely think that if the Jets do stay healthy this time around, that they will genuinely be competitive, that they absolutely can win and do damage. And it's going to be fun to watch, honestly. So I look at it from an entertainment perspective. I'm excited just to watch, because we were robbed the year with Aaron getting injured, which was a bummer, but I'm really excited to see what this looks like and how this unfolds. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you think the Jets should be doing? Do you think Aaron Rodgers has been kind of just pulling this organization down from day one? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.